Let's talk about the NFL draft, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Shemar Stewart going to 17th overall. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
They need some help on defense. Their pass defense was somewhat mediocre, and a lot of that, falls on their secondary. But you can always help your secondary by upgrading your pass rush. The question is, did they upgrade their pass rush? I know the potential is there. We've been waiting on that potential here.
Yeah.
He had 1.5 sacks for 3 consecutive years here. But the athleticism, the strength,
the measurables are all there.
Everything's there. That's just and you know what?
And his character.
And his character. Great kid. If he we've said before that he may be like Michael Bennett, who was just he was an all right player here. Well, got into the NFL and for a couple of years was like the most dominant pass rusher in the NFL. That could happen for Shemar Stewart. He definitely has that kind of athleticism. And if he does, the Bengals got to steal at 17.
If you think about that 22 class, what
I try not to, but
I know, but especially on that defensive line, what could have been, right? So I think if Shemar Turner doesn't get injured, we might be talking about him as a first rounder as well. Remember, at the beginning of last season, they were talking about him and Nick Scorton as being potential first rounders.
What bothers me is you had Walter Nolan and Shemar Turner, Shemar Stewart all together.
Yep.
And you never had the dominant defensive line that we thought we were going to see. It was good. It was all right. But it's never dominant. But you know what else? Kind of go back and talk about things that used to irritate me. You had a number 1 draft choice in Walter Nolan and a number 1 draft choice in Shemar Turner and a guy that's going to be a high draft choice in Shemar Stewart when you had no linebackers. And yet the buffoon of a defensive coordinator you used to have said, hey, let me take one of the defensive linemen off and let's put in more linebackers when I don't have any. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, thank God he's Auburn's problem now.
You have to be yourself. If you're always yourself and you don't try to change, if you try to change ships in midstream, you're going to run into problems. So if you're a guy that has always called plays, then why are you stopping calling plays? If you are a guy, why would you give that up for another sport? If you are a positive guy that talks about things are going to work out in your favor, if all of a sudden you turn into a huge negative guy, I don't think that helps your message. You have to be who your message is. And if you're who your message is all the time, then you're genuine. And if you're genuine, your players gather that from you. So when they tell you that, I believe that you're going to hit because you've always been genuine with you, Coach really believes that. He's not making this up because we're in a hitting slump.
Well, I do think there's something to be said that this is the first time he's been a head coach of any team ever.
Yes.
Any team ever. And people kind of, it's funny because the criticism of Bucky McMillan was like, oh, he's a high school head coach, and then he was a mid-major head coach. I'm sitting there going, yeah, but he's been a head coach. Michael Early didn't know, he was trying to be himself, but he didn't know what himself was as a head coach. All of that starts to formulate itself the more you go through it and the more adversity that you have, where he's never had to manage an entire roster of 40 guys. He's had to just manage hitters. So now you got to learn how to talk to the pitchers. And the way I talk to Ryan Prager is a different way than I talk to Caden Wilson. And then I'd start bringing in guys out of the transfer portal and true freshmen that I helped recruit, but not on the mound. How do I talk to Caden McCoy? How do I talk to Gavin Lyons? Caleb Longley was the connection there. So there's so many odds and ends that you can never fully prepare for before a season starts that I think, look, and I've talked to Coach Early about it. When he would come on here early, when they were going through those doldrums, David, and he came in here and did some of these interviews or did them on the phone, he sounded beat. He did.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know that about himself yet. And it's a credit to him that he goes, okay, I don't have this all figured out. How can I improve each and every area? Not just my team. That's the number one goal, is to coach my team and get them better. But being the head coach of a program like this, there's part of a show that goes on. Being the head coach of a 12U team in travel baseball, there should be a little bit of a show that goes on.
Shamar Stewart, first round draft pick since 2022. You hope it goes better for Shamar than it has for Kenyon so far with the Texans. But Cincinnati Bengals, second time they've taken an Aggie in recent history, Cedric Ogbuehi, which now you're going back like 10 years. But the Bengals take him at 17. And I think that's a good spot. I know the Niners were very serious about him. The Cowboys were very serious about him. The Falcons and Saints were all very serious about him. The Patriots at number 4 were talking to him a lot per Shamar. When I talked to him a week ago at the spring game, he said, man, Patriots talking to him all the time. So I think the reason those teams passed, they went with more on-tape proven guys.
Yep.
Shamar's upside, talked to a guy that works for an NFL team last night and said his upside's higher than any of those guys. Any of the ends and rushers that went before him. His upside's through the roof. He hasn't finished sacks and gotten to the quarterback. That's well documented. 1.5 sack, 1.5 sack, 1.5 sack. 4.5 for his career. People are wondering why. People are also getting confused with something. He is not just a testing warrior. If you watch tape of him, Shamar had a really good season. He was very effective against the run. He started, I think, every game, played hurt, played with a stinger most of the year, at least since Arkansas, and I think even the game before that. So September on, he was battling a pretty significant injury. Well, this would be a massive series if there was no storyline.
Mm-hmm.
It was outside of it being A&M in Texas for the first time since, I guess, 2011, or I guess it would be the 2012 baseball season. If that was the storyline, that's a massive storyline. And then you combine that with the fact that the Aggies had a couple weeks ago beaten number 1 on the road. Then they beat number 2 on the road. Now they're playing number 1 on the road again. They've got 2 more massive series looming down the road. Like, this is a big-time series for Texas A&M, the team that played for the national title last year, that is in a first year of a new head coach, fighting to get into the postseason. They could, look, you'd still have 9 conference games, so you are not in anything. You drop 2 of 3 unexpectedly to Missouri, then it changes everything. But the reality is, if they can go win this series this weekend, they are looking like really, really, they're looking like they're in excellent shape to make the postseason, outstanding shape to make the postseason. And then on top of that, if you win this series this weekend, I believe you start talking about what will it take to host a regional. In 4 weeks, you would have beaten 1 on the road, 2 on the road, 1 on the road. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of college baseball. I bet it hasn't. I would bet a lot of money that no one in the history of this sport has beaten
1-2-1.
1-2-1.
On the
maybe
road.
even in a season when it comes to like series, much less on the road. And then one thing that you probably can't even find out is to do it in the span of a calendar month. So what's at stake for A&M right now with just, you say, okay, it's the first year of a head coach. They played for the national title last year. They're fighting for their postseason lives. Oh, by the way, it's A&M versus Texas for the first time since 2011 in a 3-game series. Now, they've met in Omaha. They've met in a regional. There's a lot. They've played for some high stakes, right? Yeah. But nothing like this right now. And that's because of the other storyline, which is Slosh going to Texas the day after A&M season ended last year in the national championship game. Michael Early going with him, coming back, wanting this head job more than anything in the world, getting it, the way the season started to where it is now. All those players that, look, to me, as bad as anything else that was done on my list, it's the Zane comment. Number 2. Number 1 is going to that school and trying to court and take depending on who you ask, at a minimum, before the bus even got from the airport to the stadium, but at best, in terms of at best for Slosh, it was in that baseball facility right when they got back.
Mm-hmm.
Like right when they got back.